Oh, hey, Mia, how's it going? I see. So it's time to start thinking about what political candidates to support? I know, it can be really overwhelming. Sure, we can talk through some of the different candidates and what they're campaigning on. So, who's the first candidate you want to take a closer look at? It says here that Tom Tradicon is advocating for a return to a more traditional farming economy based on tried and true methods. If it was good enough for our ancestors, it's good enough for us. Tradicon wants to make the community self-sufficient. Well, that means that he believes that the people are capable of producing everything they need to survive and thrive. This appeal to tradition is really gaining traction among a group of people who look at all the issues of modern economies and want to return to a simpler time. But what does that even mean? Now, tradition is a powerful word. Think about what it means in your world. Maybe your family has certain holiday traditions that have been passed down through the generations. Or you and your friends can have a birthday celebration that you consider a tradition because you've been doing it since you were little. Well, traditional economies are based around that same concept. How the three basic economic questions are answered is based on customs and traditions that have been passed down from generation to generation. Well, Mia, if Tom Tradicon had his way, the town would be producing the same items that their grandparents' generation produced and what their grandparents' generation produced. And those goods and services are going to be produced using the same methods as those older generations. So it isn't just that you're a farmer like your great-great-grandparents were. You also have to be farming using the same techniques that they used many years ago as well. That's a good point. There isn't really a long tradition of lemonade selling robots. No, asking Mr. Tradicon some questions is a really great idea. In fact, I might even ask if an economy can function like this in the 21st century. Generally speaking, most traditional economies exist in small or isolated communities and are subsistence economies centered around things like fishing and farming. That's a great question, Mia. Subsistence economies are those where people produce just enough to survive, rather than trying to sell goods and services for a profit. These economies often identify what the community needs to survive and produce those goods and services that are essential to survival. Depending on the location of the community, members may barter for some goods or services they don't produce. For example, in a traditional economy centered around farming, like the one advocated for by Tom Tradicon, most community members will grow food crops. Some will repair the traditional equipment, and others may make storage containers like barrels. And in order to make sure that community members have access to those things they want and need, everyone needs to fill their assigned role. Let's take a second to check in. We've discussed how entrepreneurs are the folks who take risks to start businesses. What is the role of entrepreneurship in a traditional economy? Pause the video while you answer the question. Entrepreneurship doesn't really have a role in traditional economies. Decisions about economic production are dictated by tradition and custom, rather than trying to profit by providing consumers with goods and services. In traditional economies, cultural traditions dictate economic production. That means that in the 21st century, there are fewer and fewer traditional economies. But within modern economies, there are individuals, businesses, and communities that look to preserve traditional elements. People produce things like food, clothing, and furniture using traditional methods and tools as a way to preserve them for future generations. For example, an artisanal cheesemaker might use methods and techniques that are several hundred years old. A luthier hand makes guitars using traditional tools. And indigenous communities across the globe work tirelessly to preserve traditional methods of food production. There are any number of reasons that people look to maintain some of these traditional methods of production. For some, it is a deep desire to maintain connection to culture and heritage. Absolutely, Mia. A person preserving elements of their culture and heritage is so important. Others argue that some of these production methods actually yield better products. And there is also the belief that these methods are better or healthier for particular communities. One of trade econ's opponents claims that traditional economic processes have no place in the 21st century. What could you say to dispute this claim? Pause the video while you answer the question, and we'll go over the answer when you've finished. While traditional economies might be more difficult to find in the 21st century, people do want to preserve some traditional methods. This can be because of a desire to keep cultural traditions alive. These methods can also yield better products. But what is the impact on the various different stakeholders in a traditional economy? Pause the video to try to predict some of the potential impacts of traditional economies. Well, the individuals who participate have a clear understanding of their role in the economy. Well, Mia, that's because tradition dictates what people are responsible for producing and how they should go about producing it. And in many of these economies, ensuring that all community members are taken care of is an essential value. That means that as long as each individual does what is expected of them, they will have access to what the community produces. It also means that communities can honor and maintain traditional ways of life and preserve historic processes and techniques. On the other hand, these economies can force community members to choose between remaining a part of the community and forging their own economic path. Well, if your expected role is to farm using a horse-drawn plow, but you want to work on computers and information technology, you may have to leave the community that you grew up in. Traditional economies, because of their very nature, don't grow or change with the passage of time or economic innovations. This also means that traditional economies can be difficult to maintain, especially when surrounded by more modern, advanced economies. Before we move on, pause the video and refine your prediction from the beginning of the section. Okay, let's take a moment to bring this all together. In traditional economies, the three basic economic questions are answered by customs and traditions. Decisions about what to produce, how to produce it, and who to produce it for are part of long-standing cultural traditions. This process often leads to economies centered around subsistence farming, fishing, or other small-scale economic processes, and the main goal of these economies is to provide for the basic needs of that particular community or society. And while there are small or isolated communities that have traditional economies, there are people working to preserve traditional production methods in modern economies as well. We also need to remember that in traditional economies, stakeholders generally know what their role is and what is expected of them, and the needs of the entire community are generally provided for. However, this limits an individual's ability to make choices about how to participate in the economy and may force people to decide whether to remain part of the community or seek to forge their own path. These economies are also often limited in their ability to grow or expand. In tomorrow's lesson, we're going to look at a candidate who is advocating for a market economy. But until then, remember to keep investing in yourself, one lesson at a time. I'll see you next time.
Hey, hey.